Hello, welcome to the Potomac View. I'm your host, Nicole from Washington, D.C. The Potomac View is a brand new program dedicated to helping you unpack the complicated issues we face with the Communist China. We want to stress the importance of differentiating the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, from China and the Chinese people. The CCP is a totalitarian regime that doesn't represent the Chinese people. The CCP is not equal to China and the Chinese people. We don't want to conflate these ideas because that's exactly what the CCP aims to achieve. Thomas Jefferson said Americans' liberty depends on the freedom of the press. Free press is often considered the fourth estate in democracy. Throughout American history, journalists have played a monumental role in sustaining liberty by speaking truth to power and exposing power abuse against the victims who cannot make their voice heard by the public. To do that, journalists must follow a set of professional codes of ethics based on truthfulness, objectivity, fairness, and public accountability. What if the press is not free? What would happen if the fourth estate is hijacked by the special interest groups with money and power? What if the media becomes a tool of propaganda for a totalitarian state? In today's episode, we're going to talk about all of the above, and I will start with a personal experience. Last year, on December 14th, I received a text message on my personal Facebook account from a reporter working for HBO, Vice, and Showtime. Her name is Isabel Yang. She expressed her interest in interviewing me for a story about why Chinese Americans supported the former US President Trump. Mainstream media have noticed there's an increasing political awareness among the Chinese Americans, and many of them have voted for the former US President Trump. I accepted her interview request, and we started communicating by phone and WhatsApp messaging. She wanted to interview me and other Chinese Americans who were planning to attend a peaceful assembly at the Washington Monument on January 6. The event was organized by the Chinese American Alliance for Trump, a grassroots organization with members from across the country. So we met at the monument and did an interview on that day. I spent about 30 minutes talking with her and walking around at the event. She asked me some questions as to why I came here and why I supported President Trump. I told her I'm an independent thinker and my views were not shaped by the mainstream media. I then explained how my life experiences helped me to form my own opinions. Having experienced how the state-run media pushed false narratives upon people in China, I became a more independent thinker. I wanted to avoid the dear price paid by the previous generation who gave up their own independent thinking to the state power. Some of them became the Red Guards during the Cultural Revolution as a result of brainwashing and propaganda. Media played an instrumental role to fan the flames of hate and incite acts of violence against the targets. It was a decade-long disaster for a whole generation and for the entire nation. I told Yang that I follow alternative media and independent YouTubers. I mentioned GTV and G News, which were founded by the Chinese whistleblowers who wanted to take down the CCP and bring freedom, democracy, and rule of law to the mainland China. After the interview, we stayed in touch. I thought she had been working on her documentary about why the Chinese Americans supported President Trump and hoped she would send me her work when it is on air. Then, on December 21st, almost a year later, a friend of mine called me up and asked me, "How did you end up in the anti-Guo Wengui political campaign?" I was shocked, having no clue what she was talking about. Then she sent me the video clip of Isabel Yang's interview with me. It was part of a program titled Meet with the former Chinese real estate mogul Guo Wengui to explore his web of disinformation, unveiled by Vice Media on Showtime. I was deeply distressed to see my interview clip placed in parallel with the protesters on Capitol Hill and to hear Isabel Yang's narration explaining that I was one of the many Chinese Americans who listened to Mao Guo's lies and joined the rioters who stormed the US Capitol. The program painted me and the Chinese Americans as dangerous right-wingers, rioters, and conspiracy theorists spreading disinformation. I'm not a right-winger. I'm not a rioter. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a Chinese American who supports the US Constitution, rule of law, and American values. I would vote for anybody who could represent my wish and value to take down the CCP and protect America's liberty against the CCP's encroachment. I was disturbed to see I was being used for a hit piece against the individual who has nothing to do with the content of my interview. The Vice Media's program egregiously misrepresented me and so many peaceful Chinese Americans out there. Had Isabel Yang told me she was going to interview me in order to select some of my sound bites to build an anti-Mao Squad political campaign, I would have never wanted to accept her interview. After this program was aired, I sent Isabel Yang a text message requesting an explanation about why she concealed the real purpose of her work when she first approached me, and why she took my words out of the context and used them for a political campaign to attack Mao Squad and so many peaceful and freedom-loving Chinese Americans. She never replied. So what is the true purpose of Isabel Yang's work? Is it an independent reporting or politically motivated hit piece? Why did Vice HBO choose to attack and demonize Mao Squad and so many Chinese Americans? Let's take a look at who is Isabel Yang and who is behind Vice and HBO. According to Isabel Yang's own LinkedIn and Weibo, a state-run Chinese social media platform, she spent over 3 years in China working for CCTV, an international channel Shanghai, after graduating from University of Nottingham. CCTV is a state-run media that reports directly to the CCP propaganda department. International Channel Shanghai is a Shanghai-based state-run media affiliated with the Shanghai Media Group. Yang worked as a TV host for both media outlets. For those of us who are familiar with China, it is extremely difficult for a young college graduate to get a job as a host for CCTV, the most prominent media in China with over 1 billion viewers. Being a host for CCTV, even as a freelancer, means connection or 关系, and access to the most powerful people within the Chinese Communist Party. Could you imagine how a 20-year-old would become a host for CNN, MSNBC, or Fox immediately after college graduation? In China, this could only happen if you have a special connection or 关系 with the 领导, the CCP leadership. Why didn't Isabel Yang choose to become a freelancer host for BBC, ITV, or Channel 4 in the UK, or host for CNN, MSNBC, and Fox? Instead, she became a host for CCTV and Shanghai Media Group. The viewership of CCTV is far bigger than all of the big cable TV networks in the US and UK combined. Anybody who wants to make a big name in the media covets the Chinese market. China has 1.3 billion viewers. Big viewership equates to big fame and money. Who doesn't covet China market and the huge money and fame that comes with it? Facebook, Twitter, Apple, Disney, Wall Street, Hollywood, you name it. Isabel Yang should be of no exception. But there's also no free lunch in China. To court favor of the 领导, the Chinese Communist Party leader, you must offer something they need. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. You must be useful to the CCP in order to receive special favor from them. On her Weibo account, Yang showed many pro-CCP photos of herself while working for CCP's propaganda programs. In the selfie, Yang posed as a Red Guard wearing the CCP's military uniform. In another photo, Yang was on a scooter displaying a red communist flag with the tagline, "I love China." The China she loves is not a free China. The China she loves is a China controlled by the Communist Party.